Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to the Life After 50 show. This is Catherine Watson, and I'm here today with Karena Kink. And we're going to be talking about aging. So if there's anybody in the audience that is not aging, well, you can just go ahead and leave right now. But I think, this is something that is going to affect everybody, whether you're at a stage where you're thinking about aging for yourself or for a loved one. We're going to be talking about things that you need to know and ways that you can help yourself and help someone that you love. So, Karena, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate your time, and I'm glad everyone's online with us. My name is Karena Kink. I'm the owner of Always Best Care Senior Services in Houston. Our goal is to help promote independence in the home, help people to live healthy, happy, and safe, whatever manner that is.
Great. So we're going to be talking about when age happens, now what? And I just want to say this show is sponsored by Find Houston Senior Care, which is a web directory, and that's findhoustonseniorcare.com, the web directory in Houston, Texas. And we have all kinds of information. We have over 500 blogs on the website. We have video shows. We have tons of information, and we have resources. So if you're looking for a care home, or a home care company, or an elder law attorney, or just about anything senior care related, you can probably find it on Find Houston Senior Care. So I'm going to get back to the show now and to Karena. We're talking about when age happens, now what? And I put in there what it meant to be now what. But it's what, right? What? Oh, goodness. So thanks for being on the show again. So, Karena, we were talking the other day about the perception of senior support and how that has changed over the years, and it really, really has. Tell me what we're talking about there.
So the concept of aging has completely transformed. And the way I demonstrate this is just using a personal experience of when I was growing up. So I grew up in a very small Southeast Texas town, about 2,000 people tops. And when you looked at, the older population of that community, you saw that they lived at home, and then all of a sudden they were in what they called a convalescent center. And just kind of over the years, this was 25 years ago, I really had my first experience in a nursing facility, pouring juice, delivering newspapers with my grandparents. And it was a scary place. For me as a child, an adolescent, and then even growing up, it was like, oh my gosh, is that really how getting older looks? And I would say, yes, 20, 25 years ago, that was exactly what happened. People lived at home. That was where they wanted to be. And then all of a sudden, like an episode of crisis, something happened where they were no longer able to stay at home. And it was always viewed, that's your last place. You go to a nursing home. And I'm so happy to say that has completely changed. It's like senior living. It's a concept. It's a lifestyle. It is no longer you go to a nursing home to live your final days. You have all these various levels of support. You can have home care. That has become very popular for people who want to stay at home, who want to continue to be around their family, their friends, their normal environment. Then you have what they call independent living. That is, where you go to a senior retirement center, or just a community where there's like minds, like personalities, maybe even like lifestyles, and you live independently. And then you have the assisted living, where you need a little more help with hands-on personal care. And then you still have your skilled nursing facilities where you, if you needed more of physical therapy, rehab services, maybe short term, you needed just more help, nursing help. You have those facilities. And then you also have skilled nursing facilities that become long-term care, where you are then kind of a resident, that's your home, and you have the support services in place for you there. So that's why I say the entire perception of aging, and I want to try not to use the word aging. We all know it's happening. We don't have to be reminded. It's happening right now as I'm talking. So I like to use the word or the term chronologically superior.
I like that. Chronologically
superior.
I'm getting chronologically superior all the time, Karena.
Exactly.
We were talking earlier, and I mentioned to you that my mother had no idea. She passed away back in 2011, but I remember a few years before she passed away talking to her because we were seeing a lot of changes in her, and I wanted to bring in some home care and maybe some home health care and things like that. And I wanted to broach the subject. I wasn't sure how she was going to take it. And so, but she's always been a fiercely independent woman. And so I sat down with her and I said, Mom, I said, did you and Daddy ever have plans for what you would do if something happened and you could no longer care for yourself? And she got real quiet and she kind of twisted her hands together and she looked at me and she said, well, I guess I'll go to a nursing home. I said, Mom, I said, there's other options. She looked at me and she said, there are? I mean, she was so excited. The animation on her face, it just told all. And I said, yes. I said, there's people that can come into your home. Really? She said. She was so excited because that's where she wanted to be. And she had no idea that there were a lot of support services that come into your home. There's home care like you do, that do all the day-to-day help and stuff. Then there's home health care. Mom needed some physical therapy in her home. They could come in along with the home care. And then down the road, we brought in hospice. So she was able to stay in her home till the very end because that's what she wanted. It was great. For my mother-in-law, she needed a different plan, so she went to the independent like you were talking about. And then the assisted.
And that's just the beauty of it. There, you have options now. And I think we as humans, we need to know that we have options. When we don't have options, that's when we start getting very frantic, very
angry, frustrated. Yeah. That's why I always tell people if mom or dad needs to give away the car keys, you've got to give them options.
Yeah.
You've got to let them know that they can still get around and they don't have to call you every time they want to go somewhere. They've got to have options. They've got to know that Karena's company is going to send a caregiver there every week. And on Wednesday, she'll take you to the grocery store. They've got to know that.
That is a very good point, because if driving, that is a representation of independence right there.
Yes.
We're fiercely defendant of our defensive of it. So if you say, well, Mom, you're going to have an accident one day and it's really going to be bad. Well, one, you're putting the fear in her, but two, you're not giving me any options. I mean, you can't just expect someone who's able to leave their home at their own free will and then say, oh yeah, by the way, we're taking the keys from you and I don't know how you're going to go to the store. I don't know how you're going to go see your friends or go to lunch, or that's where isolation then sets in. So it's
yeah. I just thought of something. This is a lot like, remember in March when we all went on lockdown and how that felt. Okay. Now imagine that's how a senior feels when you take away the car keys. You put them on lockdown.
Pure lockdown. That's exactly how they
really have. And I think now that people have gone through that experience, I think a lot of families are going to be a little bit more understanding when they think about it in that term, don't you?
I do. And
Yeah.
not bringing COVID, we're all reminded of COVID every day, but we have learned something with COVID is you got to have options. You got to have plan B, plan C, because staying home and being isolated is not plan A.
That's not a plan.
Never be plan A.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let's talk about successful aging and how it can be achieved.
So
That's what we all want.
Yes, and I would love to say that we all age the same, but we know that's not true. And I'm kind of paraphrasing a quote that I saw several years ago, but I think it's very fitting. It basically says it's a rare and difficult attainment to grow old gracefully. Now, some people, I have seen the good, bad, and the ugly in my profession. I've seen individuals who just kind of said, woke up one day and said, oh, I'm old now. How did that happen? And then I've seen families really do the transition very well, almost seamlessly. And so when I see those, what I call successful aging, I start looking at, okay, what did they do to successfully age? And I'm not really even talking about body physically aging successfully, but it's the planning, the communication, it's the having all your staple components in balance or in line. And so I have to share a story about a client that I had the pure pleasure of being a part of his life for almost 5 years. So, and you're going to be shocked when I tell you how old he was, how chronologically superior.
I like it.
When I started working with him, he was 99. I mean, that's impressive. I worked with him for almost 5 years until he passed away at 2 weeks shy of his 104th birthday. His name was Penny, and he was that one client that it just kind of brought everything into full perspective for me. He was my epitome of successful aging. So he had one daughter. She lived in Canada. And I guess way back when, he had the forethought that, you know what, when the time comes, I want more for myself for what aging looks like in my golden years, but I also want my daughter to be able to know what to do and what my wishes are. And so he started having this, what I call crucial conversations. And crucial conversations, they can be initiated by anyone. But he really started looking at, okay, for me to age the way I want to and to live the way I want to, I mean, you first got to identify what are your goals, and then how do I achieve those goals? It's no different than what we do as younger adults in planning our lives or our retirement or our kids' education, whatever that task is. But it's still planning and having those informed decisions available to you. So the 4 kind of staples that I call of successful aging, it's a model. You've got your wealth management or financial advisor. That's the person that you go to and say, hey, here's my goal. How do I achieve that financially? Because at the end of the day, you never want to outlive your resources. That's bad if you're outliving your resources. So you got to know how to spread it out and make it work for you. The second part would be having like a legal component where you're it's kind of protection and leaving a legacy for your family. It's also identifying in the event that I am unable to make my own decisions, or I'm unable to care for myself, or unable to pay my bills, or whatever the next scenario is, how do I achieve that? The next part is having a medical team in place. And the doctor I see now as a 43-year-old female, it's probably not or shouldn't be the same doctor that I'm seeing when I'm in my golden years, like if I'm 80 or 70 or 90. My needs will be different. So it's really having a more specialized medical force in your life that's really addressing the changing needs of an aging person. And then the last component, so there's basically 4 components to this model, is having that home support, like what you mentioned for your mom. A lot of times people just don't realize that if there's an episode happening that, you can have home support to get over this I'm going to use the word crisis, this crisis or this episode, so that you can get back to being more independent. And so with, a successful aging model is you're really having crucial conversations with those people that are part of your life, whether it be family members, friends, whomever, that in the event you're unable to care for yourself or make your decisions or verbalize your decisions, you're still having a part in your life right here, right now, by making those decisions so that someone else can carry it out for you in the event that you're unable to do it. So that's what I call successful aging. It's I work with a lot of families, and the whole role reversal, it's very hard. It is very hard for a child decision maker to then become the decision maker for their loved one. And at no point in time, and I mean this with 100% sincerity, no one comes to me and says, I'm ready to make decisions for my loved one. They don't want to do it anymore.
It's hard. It's the hardest things you will ever have to do. And we went through it with both my mom and then my mother-in-law, and it tears families apart. I will tell you, it tears families apart when plans are not put in place ahead of time. Plans that are put in place, it's much easier. It's still hard. It's really hard. So I really think it's so important for people to have these conversations. And how do you recommend if somebody's having a difficult time, Karena, if I come to you and I say, I just don't know how to talk to mom about these things. Do you have some suggestions?
I do. And by no way do I think that crucial conversations, however you want to phrase them, I call them crucial conversations because there's three things that typically are happening or components that are in place when you're starting to have conversations with a loved one about what happens next. I'm going to paraphrase from Jerry Maguire, but how do I help you? Help me help you, right? Help me to help you in the future. Tell me, like you had with your mom, did you plan for how do you want to live when the time comes? I've started having these conversations with my own mom, and I will tell you, I don't get it 100% perfect. I realize that I need to know my audience, right? You need to know kind of who you're talking to and what their drivers are, and be very specific and say, like, Mom, what do you want for your life? And how can I help you to achieve that? Because I don't think any of us are feeling that, age isn't going to happen. We all know that, but sometimes we just kind of avoid it because it's not a pleasant topic. But it doesn't have to be scary. It does not have to be overwhelming. But for it not to be overwhelming, you have to start having those conversations of what happens when this happens. What happens when if you're unable to pay your bills? I mean, where are your accounts? Or, am I listed as being a signer? Can I help step in when the time comes? But you can't just automatically assume that's going to happen because it doesn't.
Right. And I know with my age group, I'm a little bit older than you. I'm 63. Talking about finances was hush hush. You did not discuss that. You didn't ask your parents. It was rude. It was considered very rude, and you just didn't do that. And I had to really shift that way of thinking. And I know with my own son, I mean, we've had this conversation many times. I make sure he knows about our financial situation, where the money is, what we have, how we're moving forward in our life, everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. It's a scary conversation for a lot of older people to have. And a lot of people are afraid of giving up that control. Money is part of the control, just like the car. Having control of your own finances is important too. But the truth of the matter is sometimes people start having cognitive problems and don't realize they are, and the money gets given away. It happened to my mom. It could happen to you. So we have to have other people having you have to have people that you trust, whether it's your children or somebody else, you have to have somebody that you trust that can help oversee things.
And I would be misleading you if I didn't say that money is usually the hottest topic. That's when temperatures kind of, there's that kickback of, why do you want to know my resources? And you're right that you use the word control, but here's where I think we don't always look at the big picture. By just releasing a little bit of information knowledge is key. So in regards to control, is you're still giving your loved one the opportunity to control what happens in their life. 10 years from now, 5 years from now, this game of chess that we call life, we don't know what the next move is. And so all we're trying to do is to kind of hedge our risk of being better informed, and it comes with those crucial conversations. I like to say that crucial conversations are built on 3 things. And it's like the making of a perfect storm. So it's when opinions differ, aging, it's a process. It's when the stakes are high. This is your loved one. This is your family member. And it's when emotions are high. So if you throw money into it, what happens when, if you have an episode, what I try to tell families is you're on the journey too. This is not just your loved one's journey, but this is your journey with them. And for it to be as successful or smooth without knowing all the bumps in the road, you can help try to plan for it, to minimize, mitigate, if you will, your challenges. And it's that open feedback. These crucial conversations don't happen like a knockout, like in boxing. It's not one conversation, you're done, bam, okay. We'll see you later.
Be nice if it was. But it isn't. It's ongoing. Yeah.
Ongoing.
Yeah. And if you have more than one child, it's important to make sure all of the children are included in those conversations, and that everybody knows what your wishes are. Really, really important.
And that's the hard part. A very, very hard part. And I would say I'm one of 3. And my siblings, like any family, we're not always on the same page about stuff. Either we're not listening to one another, maybe what their thoughts and their feelings are. So I don't feel like I'm any different than the next person. But what I did feel like is starting to happen, and it's just a continuous series of conversations, is, okay, this is what our loved one wants. How do we help that be achieved? And then it's slowly getting everyone on the same page. Family dynamics always have a role, but when you're having that conversation or leaving it maybe to, when I go back to the successful model, is having that maybe an elder care attorney draw up documents of, this is this person's role in the event of XYZ. And then here's what will happen in XYZ scenario. But you can't have that kind of roadmap unless you start talking about it, about planning. So I keep using the word planning, and I keep saying, don't wait for a crisis to happen to be what drives your model. Right here, right now, each one of us is probably identifying or observing something that's changing with a friend or with a loved one, and saying, you know what, this may or may not get better, but let's start talking about it. So let's start planning for it. And that's all you really have to start doing. Brace yourself, because the first conversation you have, regardless if you know your audience, regardless if you're asking what their fears are and listening to what their true reservations are about it, it's still a difficult conversation. But each conversation you have, pick one topic only. Don't do it all at once. Pick one topic, and then you just gradually build off of it. Don't do it when there's a crisis. Don't do it when there are heated discussions already happening, and just throw it in.
And it's not the topic for the Thanksgiving dinner table.
Absolutely not.
Don't wait till then. Have it at just, a regular, everyday conversation. Yeah, I agree. So Important, so important. Let's have those conversations. Karina, we talked about personal support, and there's so much now that is available. We've got technology that's allowing us to do a lot of things. We've got Uber. I don't know if that's really a thing right now with COVID, but it'll come back. Um, Eventually, the driverless cars are going to be there, and that's going to be an option. But I mean, we've got all of these options. We've got ability to say, turn on lights, and the lights come on.
The
We've
clap.
got a clap, I mean, we've got the ability to do so much to change our temperature without getting out of our chair. I mean, there's a lot of things that really are going to make aging much more successful and easy, I think, and it's growing. The technology is changing every day, and there's going to be more. Having the ability to get on the phone or your computer and do a video call with your child that doesn't live close by is huge, because that's going to keep a senior engaged and happy. And there's a lot of seniors that don't have that technical how or know-how, or maybe because of dementia they're having problems. But if they have a home care company in there, that home care company can set it up for them and then put the phone there in front of them so that they can talk to their daughter. And it's so healing for both the person that they're caring for and for the daughter or the son that is worried, especially right now with COVID. Hold on just a minute, Karina. There's somebody, looks like somebody's making a comment. Tanya Moon came on. Let's see what she says. She says, ugh, these conversations are so hard, but so important. Great information. Yes, you are right, Tanya. They are hard, but they, like Karina said, they get easier as you do them. And you take them in small little bites.
Yeah.
Just bite-sized conversations. And you know what? I think what a lot of people don't realize is if you're in your 40s, I guarantee you may not realize, but when somebody's in their 60s, they've already thought about all these things. They're thinking about them, whether they're saying it or not.
Right.
If they're in their 70s and 80s, I guarantee you they're thinking and they're talking to their friends about all of these things. So it's not a new conversation for them. It's new with you. And you just have to get past your fears of having that conversation.
And every relationship is different. I mean, that's the beauty of us as just humans. We're all different. So what my conversation may look like with my own loved one could be very different than the approach and conversation you had with your own mom. There's no right and wrong. It needs to happen. So, there's that old running joke, how do you eat an elephant? Well, in this sense, age is that elephant. You take it one bite at a time. You don't approach it and be like, okay, we're going to spend an hour and we're going to hash all this out. You'll never get anywhere. You're going to get emotions stirred up. You're going to, you're going to get that initial knee jerk. I don't want to talk about this. We'll talk about it later type response. So it's choose your battles, and aging is not a battle. This is, we need to have our arsenal prepared for us, and that arsenal is having a team. It takes a village. You need to have information, and information comes from all different sources. But what I like to say is rely on those experts for the information. Rely on your medical team. Let them help you, guide you as to, okay, here's what you're seeing with your physical makeup, your body. Let your wealth manager, your financial advisor be the one that kind of gears you. Here's what you can afford. Here's what you should be looking in regards to, money. Let your attorney be the one who kind of starts driving you for, here's what you need to think about for legacy purposes and what, how you want to protect your assets, and leave it to, and here's my plug, home care support, that they are part of the continuum of care as well. They're the ones who can help promote that independence at home. So if, in your example, when driving is no longer a good option for your loved one, well, have someone come and take them so they can continue to still be independent, go to the grocery store and do those activities, or go to their bridge meeting, or church or wherever that they're accustomed to doing. And then as needs are changing, as a family member, it is invaluable to know that I have someone, my loved one, that can be my eyes and ears. Be that friend to my loved one.
That is so crucial. That is so crucial because with my mother-in-law, when we had a home care company coming in and checking on her, and she was in an independent living facility. Okay, she was in an independent living community, but she needed a little extra care, right? So we had somebody pop in the morning and, just kind of help her get started for the day. And then we had somebody come in the afternoon or evening and help her get ready for the end of the day. And they were my eyes and ears. I would always have them text me after they had seen her in the morning to let me know how she was doing, if she'd had a good night, if she had, wasn't feeling good or was feeling good, all of that. And that let me know, okay, do I need to rush over there this morning and check on her some more, or can I wait till this afternoon or maybe even tomorrow? Because we would go by regularly, but they would give us that feedback. And it was a separate set of eyes that were looking at the situation differently than my husband and I, because they don't have the same attachment that my husband and I did. And so they were able to see in a different light and see things that sometimes we couldn't see or didn't want to see. And I think that's really important because, nobody wants to see that their parent is aging. It was easier for me to see things in my mother-in-law than it was from my husband because it was his mom. He still saw her as the vibrant, 30, 40, 50-year-old woman.
Yeah, exactly. That's that role reversal. And I get tickled sometimes because, I'll hear caregivers give kind of a daily update of the individual we're supporting. And then I'll talk to the family member and they'll say, oh, I called mom and she said she had, gotten up and did this and she never left a recliner. So I know that as I'm not a parent, but a parent will try to protect their child. And if you're calling and not actually, someone's not seeing mom or dad, then you may think everything's okay. Like, oh, they've been busy today. They ate and they took their medicine, but that may not actually be the case. And so just having someone in the home, not to strip them of their independence, because that's never the goal. It's to help supplement. Keep them active, keep them engaged, keep them living the best life that they can. I always say that age doesn't just happen. It's when it happens. It's planned for it. And it's a continuum. An episode should never drive how your life can look. It may drive it, each episode may prompt you into the next phase, but you should never be trying to base your decisions on a crisis at hand. And that's where I guess my driving point is plan for it. Our golden years are just that. Let them be golden. Let them be a positive experience for everyone involved. That includes your family. But a lot of families, and there's no right and wrong to this, but they're very overwhelmed because they've got a friend who went through this, and another friend who went through that, and this person saying do this, and who's looking out for me and who's helping me? And it gets very overwhelming, and that's where people shut down. And it becomes very scary, not only for the person who's aging, but for that family member, because then they feel like, I don't know how to help at this point. It's like I had a friend who used the term analysis paralysis.
Yep. One of my favorite terms. It's so true. It's so true. Yeah.
So,
Marina, thank you so much for being on the show. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. In fact, we've gone a little bit over, but that's okay. It was an important topic, and I think it's going to help a lot of people. So Tanya also said, I never thought of the bite-sized conversations and looking at it in small pieces instead of one huge talk. And I think that's a really good point. A lot of people don't think of that. And that's a really good way to approach having those crucial conversations that Karena was talking about.
And Tanya, thank you for your insight too. I do appreciate that.
Absolutely. Okay, so I want to go ahead and let's see, let me put up your phone number. So if somebody wants to reach out to Karena for help, you are with Always Best Care, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And this is Karena's phone number, and it's 832-460-2000. For my podcast listeners, they won't be seeing it on the screen, so I'm going to say that again, 832-460-2000 to reach Karena Kirk with Always Best Care Senior Services. So Karena, thanks again for being on the show. We really, really appreciate it. And we'll have to have you back again sometime.
Thank you so much for having me. And I hope everyone has a wonderful Wednesday. Take care.
Bye-bye.